Good morning. It seems like it's been so long since I've stood here to share Scripture with you. I'm so glad to be doing it. We're so blessed to have Ethan to share the gifts that he gives us every week. Thank you so much. Our Scripture today is from John 17. I'm going to back up just a verse or two to set this up. Jesus said, "You believe at last," Jesus answered, "but a time is coming and has come when you will be scattered, each to his own home. You will leave me all alone. Yet I'm not alone, for my Father is with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world." And now our scripture for today. After this, Jesus said, as he looked toward heaven and prayed, "Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son, for you granted him authority over all people, that he might give eternal life to all those who you have given him. Now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I have brought you glory on earth by completing the work you have given me to do. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. I have revealed you to those whom you gave me out of this world. They were yours. You gave them to me, and they have obeyed your word. Now they know everything that you have given me has come from you. For I gave them the words you gave me, and they accepted them. They knew with certainty that I came from you, and they believed that you sent me. I pray for them. I'm not praying for the world, but for those you have given me, for they are yours. All I have is yours, and all you have is mine. And glory has come to me through them. I will remain in the world no longer, but they are still in the world, and I am coming to you. Holy Father, protect them by the power of your name, the name you gave me, so that they might be one as we are one." This is the word of the Lord.
Thank you, Lonnie. It's like you read my mind. Isaac Asimov, A-S-I-M-O-V, is an American writer and a professor at Boston University. He told this story, and I'm going to tell it the way he told it, but it really could be about any minister, any pastor, any lay leader, any denomination. I'm simply telling it as he told it. A story about Rabbi Feldman, who was having trouble with his congregation. They couldn't agree on anything. The president of the congregation said, "Rabbi, this cannot continue. There has to be a meeting, and we have to settle the areas of dispute once and for all," and the rabbi agreed. So at the appointed time, the rabbi, the president, and the 10 elders met in the synagogue's conference room at a magnificent mahogany table, and one by one the issues were dealt with, and on each issue it seemed like the rabbi was the lone voice among all the discussion. finally said, "Come on, Rabbi, enough's enough. Let's vote and let the majority rule." So he passed out slips of paper, and each man made his mark on the paper, and the votes were counted, and the president said, "You may examine them, Rabbi, if you wish, but the vote is 11-1 against you. We have the majority." The rabbi was offended, and he rose to his feet and said, "So now, because of this vote, you think you're right and I'm wrong. Well, that's not so. I stand here," and he raised his arms impressively to the heaven, "and I call upon the Holy One of Israel to give us a sign that I am right and you are wrong." And no sooner than the last word was out of his mouth than lightning struck down through the synagogue, hit the table, and it split in two. And there was dust and debris and ash all over the place. And the president got up out of the rubble, glasses to the side, hair a mess, and said, "Fine, Rabbi, fine. The vote is 11-2, and we still have the majority." Unfortunately, we all know that everything that is done in a church is not done sometimes in unity, and certainly not done to bring glory and honor to God. Throughout history, the church itself has not always been united. If those who remember participated in Bible study a few years ago, we studied all of the different denominations and how they were formed throughout the years. That in itself showed that the church was not unified. So even if you go back to our discussions in the past about Martin Luther, when he nailed the 97 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg, Germany in 1517, that event itself started the Protestant Reformation. And once that squabble began, it snowballed. And it wasn't long before the Protestants themselves were not agreeing. And they were splitting on after one after another. They were disagreeing with their brothers and sisters in faith. There was disunity again in the one holy apostolic church. And sadly, it still continues today. What I've described does not sound anything like the prayer that you just heard Monty present. Monty presented to you a prayer. And he backed up and added a couple verses before where I told him to start, which was perfect. Because it set the absolute tone, the reason, the need for Jesus offering up this prayer. This prayer was a prayer for unity. I don't know, Monty, whether you knew it or not, but that prayer is considered by many biblical scholars to be the real Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer that we recited earlier today, when I said, and he told the disciples, when you pray like this, that's mechanical. That's how you are to offer up a prayer. And how does it start? Our Father. How did Jesus start his prayer that time? The first word out of his mouth was, Father. He used the same mechanics that we use, but he, the Lord, was offering up this prayer to his Father. That is why many people consider it the real Lord's Prayer. It is a prayer that the Lord prayed to God. It is a prayer of unity of the Father, the Son, and the community of faith. It is the Lord praying for His companions, for His church. It is the Lord praying for Christian unity. Jesus prayed that His disciples, in the last verse that you heard Monty read, was He prayed that they would be one. One. And what is also important to understand is this prayer of unity, this prayer of oneness, occurred at the very end of the Lord's Supper, just before He went to the garden to pray and be arrested. That is why He is telling them, I am leaving this world. He was praying for all of us, to get along. To get along. Have we, as a total Christian community, done a good job at getting along? You answer. Have we done a good job as a societal community of getting along with one another? You answer. Given all that is going on in the world today, right now, with all the words that we hear almost each and every day, we are in this together. How are we doing at that? You answer. And I'm sure your answers are mixed. They're not totally great, but they're not totally horrible. So if they're kind of middling, then the question is, how can we be better? How can we do better? And I'm offering you three reasons, or three ways that we can do that. And the first one you're going to hear, and you're going to sit there and roll your eyes in the back of your head, going, oh, and here we go again. The first one is it has to start with us. It has to start with you. Eyes rolling. Oh, here we go. If it doesn't start with us, if it doesn't start with you, then tell me where it starts. Where else does it begin? If it doesn't start with you, with us, right here, right now, we as individuals and then as a community of faith, we have to make the first move. Cross, white. We are still in the Easter season. And during the Lenten season, you were asked to examine your relationship with God. How did that come out? How did that come out? And what have you done since you got that position till now to improve it? Tell me it doesn't start with us. It doesn't start with you and me. We have to be one with Christ. Our lives have to be knitted together with His love through faith. And as a congregation, our love has to be knitted together. It has to start with us. The second is being one with Christ. We have to pull together. If we are in this together, then should we not be pulling in the same direction? J.R., Drew, I know you know what I'm about ready to say. Dan, Barney, probably you know what I'm about ready to say too. Maybe others here do. I know I do. How many of you amazing strength of a draft horse. The Budweiser Clydesdales, Percherons, Belgians. Their strength is phenomenal. My father had a match set of Percherons that each weighed 2,500 pounds. Each one of those horses could pull 4,000 pounds each. 4,000 pounds apiece. So you would think, when Dad put them together, they could pull what? 8,000 pounds. It's not true. Is it, JR? It's not true. When put together, pulling together in the same direction, they could pull 12,000 pounds as a team. 3 times the weight that any one of them could do. Imagine the power that we could exert as a congregation, as a denomination, as a one true apostolic church, if we were pulling together in the same direction. Pulling together as a team. And right now, Ripley First has an opportunity to pull together in a reformation effort, and those pieces are starting to come together. The vision and the hopes are starting to come together. But in order for us to accomplish that dream, we have to have faith. We have to have faith in the ones who are coming in, and we have to have faith in one another, and we have to have faith in God. That idea of unity starts with us. We all have to pull together. And then the third issue is, don't give up. Keep pulling. Unity isn't easy. Most of us have really never learned how to disagree in love. Think about that. Have we really learned how to disagree and maintain our love for one another? Unity isn't easy. But Jesus not only prayed for it, he modeled it. Remember when the disciples came to him complaining about the people who were preaching and doing signs of wonder in Jesus' name, but weren't part of the crowd of disciples. Remember that story? And Jesus' response was, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit. If they're not against us, then they must be for us. Christian unity is not determined about every little thing that we agree on, or even every big thing. Christian unity is whether we love one another regardless of where we disagree. I'm going to conclude with a story, and I found it on the internet. I don't know whether it's true. I think it might be, but irregardless, it made me think. I hope it makes you think too. Shortly after the end of the Civil War, in a very fashionable, stately section of Richmond, Virginia, there was a church. And members attending that church one Sunday morning were invited to come to the altar to take communion. And after several rows of worshipers had come forward, and there were many rows that still had not had the opportunity yet to come forward, a single man, a black man, walked down the aisle to the front to kneel to take communion. No one else got up. Even though there were others that still hadn't, no one else got up. No who just happened to be black, knelt to take communion. And then very quietly, a very tall, gray man that had a military air about him stood up and strode down the aisle to the black man's side. And together they knelt. Before the preacher could continue, people realized that the person kneeling beside this black man, showing no distinction whatsoever, was General Robert E. Lee. Lee said nothing. Everyone knew that he had shown his faith through his act by joining this lonely Christian who just happened to be black at the altar. We are called to demonstrate our unity in Christ through love. It has to start with us. We have to pull together, and we have to keep pulling. The Lord's Prayer is, and the Lord prayed that we be one as he is one with God, and that we love one another as he loved us. There's not a single one of us in here that does not want him to answer our prayers. Right?